Hey everybody, Dave here. Hopefully, just pardon my voice here, getting over a little sickness here. But I did want to start bringing you some really nice football, Packer content, draft content as we start to gear ourselves towards the NFL draft coming up, especially now that the Senior Bowl's done. So I'm not going to play with any trades in this draft. It's just going to be a basic 3 round mock draft for the Green Bay Packers. So we're just gonna kind of go through this particular draft, looking at what's all available. I'm going to talk about the last few picks and where the Packers might end up going with this, and I'm going to just try to get in the head of Brian Gutekunst, which is a lot of fun to try to get into the head of somebody. I think he's easier to read than what most people think. But again, there's no trades in this particular mock draft just because we still don't have 2 head coaching vacancies filled. We don't know where Aaron Rodgers, what his decision's going to be. We don't know where Derek Carr is going to go. And everything that I am saying right now with what the Packers' needs could be, what other teams would potentially do, trying to get in the head of the teams around us, everything could really change, and you could really go back and just say, well, this video is useless. So again, this is just a basic 3 round mock. 15, 45, and 78 are the picks that the Packers are having. I'm going to try to explain why I'm taking the players I am and a couple of the other players that are in consideration at the pick. So, pick 15, Packers are up. A couple of the players that are going to be in consideration here, you have Quentin Johnston, the wide receiver from TCU, Lucas Van Ness, the edge rusher from Iowa, Zay Flowers, the wide receiver from Boston College, Jackson Smith and Jigba, the wide receiver from Ohio State, Jordan Addison, the wide receiver from USC. And Nolan Smith from Georgia is another player that's right up there. For me, this is really, if the board falls this way, you don't have a guy like a Brian Branch or a Peter Skoronsky at this point. Is Brian Branch available? Let me see if Brian Branch, he might actually be available yet. Hold on. See, I'm doing this on the fly right now, so it's not there. This will make this decision a lot harder. Why didn't I see him? Oh, okay. All right, he went a lot higher. Okay, that's why. That's why. Okay. Anyway, sorry about that delay. Like I said, I'm kind of doing this on the fly a little bit here as well. So, if Brian Branch, obviously, you could hear me really get excited about that player. He would have been in very serious consideration here, but he actually, in this mock draft, went 6th to the Lions, which I think was a little high for him. But Lucas Van Ness and Brian Branch would have been the oh my god, almost like Sophie's Choice. Which one do you take, right? For me, it's going to be very simple here. Lucas Van Ness, he's got the size. I believe he's 6'5", 260 pounds. He's got the athleticism. He's going to test very well. So, and you also have that void to fill of Rashawn Gary might not be ready until the end of October. He's coming off that torn ACL. So getting a Lucas Van Ness to pair with Preston Smith and Kingsley Enagbare until Rashawn Gary comes back is a good thing. Plus, Lucas Van Ness gives you that insurance policy that if you moved on from Preston Smith after this year, you have an edge rush that consists of Rashawn Gary, Lucas Van Ness, and Kingsley Enagbare. To me, that is too good right there to pass up. Edge rush is a premier position. And I'm not really looking at offensive line. I'm not really looking at tight end in round 1 for the Packers. If they were to trade down, that'd be a little bit different. But Lucas Van Ness to me is going to be the next pick. Darnell Washington, the tight end from Georgia, is my next pick at pick 45. He's about 6'7", 265 pounds. Really, really good blocker. I think he would have been featured a lot more in the passing game if if it wasn't for Brock Bowers, who's clearly going to be tight end one in next year's draft. He would have been definitely highlighted a lot more than what he was. So I think that there is a lot of pass catching upside there with Darnell Washington that we haven't seen and yet. So I think that he's a guy that, especially with his measurables, is really going to ring the bell for um, for Brian Gutekunst for the Packers. So then we get into the third round, and this gets really interesting because there's a couple players here that I really like. Joe Tippmann, the center from Wisconsin. No, that's not a hometown pick right there, but he's a player that he could be a plug and play center. You can maybe move Josh Myers into guard, and then you can really kind of shuffle around that way. Sam Laporta from Iowa. We just took Darnell Washington, but I wouldn't mind almost double dipping at that position because Sam Laporta is going to be a little bit more of a receiving tight end. He's kind of that smaller guy that you can run across the field, where Darnell Washington's a guy that's going to command the field. So it's going to give you a little tight end versatility. I don't think that that's something that Gutekunst is going to do, though. Honestly, at this point, I think I took Rashid Rice from SMU. He's got the size you're looking for, about 6'2" and a half, 6'3", over 200 pounds. He's a good blocker. He does have some issues with concentration drops, but he's a young player. He's still a young player, obviously. We obviously saw Christian Watson get better and better at that as the season went on. He's a player that had one of the similar knocks. Rashid Rice doesn't quite have the athleticism of what obviously Christian Watson has, but you can almost look at him like a Romeo Dobbs in a sense. Good size, good enough speed. He can do a lot of really good things for you. So if you're looking at this 3-round mock draft that I just went through, Lucas Van Ness gives you that edge depth right there that you're desperately going to need as Rashawn Gary is rehabbing off of his torn ACL. Darnell Washington, a perfect tight end there. You have Josiah DeGuara, and then you get more of that traditional tight end because DeGuara is kind of that H-back tight end. So Darnell Washington is going to be a lot more of that traditional end line blocker, command the middle of the field type tight end. And then Rashid Rice is going to be, especially if you have Watson, Dobbs, Toure, and Melton, Rashid Rice will slide in right away, be a really nice wide receiver 3 to wide receiver 4. Early on, he's got some upside to be, I think, a very high-end number 3 or a solid number 2 wide receiver as he develops in this league a lot more. So again, we hit edge, we hit tight end, we hit wide receiver, hit 3 major needs, and then you could go into day 4 or day 3 of this draft and start to hit some of that secondary and get some of those offensive linemen to add a little more depth. But right there, you hit edge, you hit tight end, you hit wide receiver, 3 big areas of need, 3 guys that are going to check boxes for Gutekunst as to what he looks for in a prospect. The other thing that I did really look at as well is the quarterback position. Because no matter who you have at quarterback, I think the other one's going to be gone. If Aaron's back, I think Jordan will end up getting traded. If Jordan's here, then obviously Aaron's gone, whether that's via trade or retirement. I think at this point it's more likely that it's a trade. So we need to start having a real conversation about who do you want to bring at the quarterback position. If it's via the NFL draft, well, then you're probably talking Aaron Rodgers as your quarterback at that point. So then maybe you're looking at the Hendon Hookers day 2, day 3 of the draft. Maybe you're looking at a Jared Hall. You're trying to find one of these lottery ticket guys later on. Because if Aaron Rodgers comes back, you're not trading Jordan Love just to take another first-round quarterback. Because if Rodgers is coming back, you want to win now. And a first-round quarterback that's going to sit on the bench is not going to do that. Packers did that once. They're not going to do it again. So I could definitely see a young quarterback getting looked at day 2, day 3 of this draft. It's just a matter of who's going to kind of fill that role. Like, is it a Hendon Hooker who's, his knocks are he's a little older coming off a torn ACL? Is it a Jared Hall who's got really good tape, really good arm, but there's some inconsistency there? Could it be a guy like a Max Duggan from TCU? Could it be a Hafner from Florida or Fresno State? but you need to look at a young quarterback. And if it's Jordan Love, I think you still need to look at the young quarterback, but then you need to talk about what veteran quarterback are you going to bring in? And that's another conversation for another day that we'll get into. But this is something that when I went through this mock, and I'm going through this, especially as time goes, and we know what direction the Packers are going to go, this is a conversation that we need to start talking about. We need to start figuring out what quarterback is going to fit here, because we are going to need another quarterback at some point. Whether it's, you're moving on with Jordan Love and Rodgers is traded, you want to get a veteran guy to come in and just kind of help out, be that veteran staple in the room. If Aaron Rodgers is the guy, you move on from Jordan Love, then you're going to want to bring in another young player. Maybe it's a Drew Lock. You take a flyer on a guy like that. But these are things that you really have to start considering. And once we know the Aaron Rodgers decision and what happens from there, this gets a lot more fun. But again, make sure you like and subscribe to this video. We talked about Lucas Van Ness, Darnell Washington, Rashee Rice in this 3-round mock here for the Packers. We are going to do a total mock draft here coming up in the near future, but I do want to dive into more great Packer content as we go forward when it comes to the quarterback position, especially once we know what Aaron Rodgers is going to do, that's going to open up the door to a ton of different things. Have yourself a great day. Again, like and subscribe for more videos.